Hello everyone! So we're going to start a new section, General Concepts, the second chapter. So the first principle of the general concepts, we'll just call them general principles now, even though basically all principles are kind of general, right? But yeah, anyway, we'll call them general principles. So the first one is, with analysis, theoretical principles become concrete, practical tools. So if you've read the previous section of this book, you'd be well acquainted with the fact that principles are just bits of knowledge. And you have to, in a sense, learn how to make this knowledge come to life. So how do you make this knowledge come to life? Analysis. But as I've said multiple times already, we need to define the terms used here. So let's define the term analysis. So in this book, analysis is taken to mean an all-encompassing type of calculation that is performed on the entire position. So there's calculation and there's analysis. Calculation would be something like they go here, I go there, they go here, I go there, etc. In contrast, analysis would mean the entire set of such calculations performed on a position, finding all candidate moves and calculating them out. Now, of course, analysis is guided by relevant questions, which are guided by intuition, such as, let's say there's a weak square on the king side, so let's try to attack it and try to attack the king. This is guided by intuition, and it helps analysis guide, and it helps direct analysis in a sense. So we get some direction for our analysis to focus on. So let me give you an example of a typical sequence of analysis. So line A, I go here, they go there. Okay, that doesn't seem to work. Moving on. Line B, I go here, they go there, I go here. That seems good. Let's see. Line C, I go here, they go there. Not as good as line B. Alright, line B it is. So we pick three candidate moves, line A, B, C. I'm using three candidate lines, not moves. So we pick the first one, then second, then third. We see that the second is the best, and we pick it. So, and just to further define more terms, because we will be using them, the third chapter is about evaluation anyway, so let's get this out of the way. So in contrast to calculation and analysis, evaluation would be a kind of static assessment. So when I gave you the example of line A looks good, line B looks better, line C looks worse, line B would be evaluation. When you're saying line B looks good, that's evaluation. It is a static appraisal of the advantages and disadvantages of the position. However, other authors have different definitions, so it's important to follow the definitions given in this book, so please keep that in mind. And by the way, analysis is a tool that requires many skills. These skills, according to Anam Dan Heisman, of course, we've already mentioned his name multiple times. And in the general concepts, there will be quite a few mentions of his name as well. Less so in the other sections of the book. So, patience, willingness, consistency, carefulness, visualization, tactical awareness, vision, and tree searching, deductive chess logic. So these are all the aspects that are required, or skills that are required to do correct analysis. Of course, it's not important to memorize them in detail. You can read more about it in Dan Heisman's work anyway. Alright, so that marks our section on explanation of the reasoning. So when does this principle apply? This principle applies in all analytical positions, which are positions in which knowledge is of little importance. In such positions, knowledge of principles is used to evaluate the positions at the end of a specific calculation, but is of little use when calculating out a sequence of moves. Most random middle game positions can be thought of to be analytical positions that can be subject to analysis. So if I pick out from a game a random position, it's probably going to be an analytical position and not one that you can easily apply one principle to and just go with it. So that's how you kind of combine the principles we're learning with analysis. So the principle doesn't apply in knowledge positions, such as the opening where book moves are known, or when a specific tactic such as a pin can be calculated out to a win, or when the position is so simplified, like in some endgames, that the result is known beforehand. So like in theoretical endgames, which are basically memorized. Though that's actually rather rare to occur, which is another subject for another day. Alright, so that's it for the when the principle doesn't apply section. Alright, so for the associated principles. First set, board vision prevents narrow thinking, and visualization is a necessary skill and the basis of much of chess. So these two principles are an integral part of analysis. Without visualization of move sequences, analysis would not be possible, and without an appreciation of the way the board looks, which is board vision, which we will talk about later, board vision being the ability to recognize the entire board, what's going on the entire board. So without board vision, analysis would also not be possible. Second, analysis is intimately tied to all principles under the evaluation section, which is I think there are about 5 principles in that section. It's the third chapter, so we're getting there soon. And third associated principle, so analysis is associated with principles of time management and criticality assessment. So what's criticality assessment? The assessment of critical positions. So critical positions are very important positions which require a lot of analysis, and it is important to use one's time on such positions. Fourth associated principle, at its best, analysis is built on calculation. So all principles under the header of calculation are more or less associated with analysis. Calculation being another chapter of this book. Fifth associated principle, analysis is of course somehow related to all the principles in this book. The more knowledge you have, the better guided your analysis will be. So that's what we're trying to do in this book. We're trying to build up the knowledge so that when it comes to using the skills we have in chess, such as analysis and evaluation and what have you, we'll have a better foundation with which to use our skills. Alright guys, so for the famous game, we have Mr. Botvinnik, none other than the world champion, the grandmaster, the patriarch, the great educator, Mr. Mikhail Botvinnik. So yeah, what I'm going to show you here is that, so definitely Botvinnik knew about good knight versus bad bishop, but knowing about something, the principle, and making it come to life in a concrete game is something entirely different. So let's watch how, look at this, how he brilliantly maneuvers the knight to the c5 square. So for Botvinnik to get the knight to c5 in the first place, he had to make c5 a weak square. And for that, he used a lot of analysis, a lot of calculation to make that possible. Even here, look at this g6 move. It's a very tactically based move. So yeah, all of this g6 is just distraction basically. So all of this had to be calculated. This is a concrete game, so you can't just, knowledge of the principles solely is not enough. You have to make them work in a real game, and Mr. Botvinnik brilliantly did so. Alright, so for the other examples section, so this game kind of starts off a bit slowly, but it picks up its pace very soon, and now we see the knight comes to d6. So sure, the principle tells you to put the knight on d6. It's an advanced outpost, it's a nice square on the 6th rank, and that should be great. But this is a concrete game, so you have to calculate all kinds of stuff. You have to calculate this, what happens after knight c8. You have to calculate what happens after this possible exchange sacrifice, what happens after rook d8 and bishop f8, bishop takes d6, all of that. I think White here really played a model game, because they made use of these ideas of cementing the knight on d6, and soon enough it was converted into a passed pawn. Right here it was converted to a passed pawn, and I really think this was a model game. So not going to commentate much here, just notice this bishop came to defend the promotion square, but now it left dark square weaknesses behind, which white actually duly exploits. Already here, bishop a3 is preparing these ideas, and the queen had to be lost, and white won in really nice fashion. Yeah, so really analysis makes these principles that we have in our heads, these bits of knowledge, it makes them into one cohesive whole, it makes them come to life. Now, how do you work on your analysis? That's an entire subject on its own, but there are a lot of resources. Perhaps I will produce something, but anyway, will be content with what we have here. So yeah, I hope you got something out of this video, guys, and take care.